there's nothing better together with the basement than baptisms, right? Like, aren't they the best things ever? I love them, man. This week I was looking at my baptism spreadsheet because I have one of those. Because I got an A+ in being type A, baby. But by the way, where are my type A spreadsheet-loving weirdos at in the room? Yes. We should all get like Microsoft Excel tattoos or something together. I don't know. But I was looking, what's that?
To a pivot table.
To a pivot table. So I was looking at my baptism spreadsheet this week, and the people who just got baptized today are the 146th, 147th, and 148th people to go public for Jesus in the basement. You got to celebrate that. That's amazing, right? So I love it. I love it. We also got to celebrate everybody who's watching online, everybody who's new in the building. If you are new, hi, my name is Joel, and I'm addicted to spreadsheets. Hi, Joel. Okay, sorry, y'all missed it. It's all good. But I love it that you're here if you're new. I love that way more than any sort of spreadsheet there is. So thanks for being here. If you're joining us online and you just tuned in, you're like, why is the pastor's pants all wet? It's because we just had a baptism, that's why, and we overflowed that tub, buddy. Anyway, I want to say hey to Ed and Lori Piccone, who's watching from Virginia. And Ed and Lori is Stacy's uncle and aunt, and they have been watching ever since last weekend's Birds and the Bees talk. That's true. Lord have mercy. Okay. But hey, Ed and Lori, so glad you're with us. So what's up to you guys? And I want to start out a little different before we get into things today. You guys been seeing what's going on across over in Eastern Europe? You've been watching this mess? Man, I've been watching it and just like watching it on my phone, reading news. Like it just breaks my heart for what's going on over there with those guys. And I feel so bad for the civilians in Ukraine. I even feel bad for a lot of civilians in Russia because I think there's like one person who wants this to happen. That's what it seems like. But anyway, I just want you to know our team has been praying about this. I've been praying about this just for there to be peace and for God to just intervene in this whole thing. And so I just want you guys to know where we're at with it. But I also want you to know this. Our church is a church like, yeah, we want to pray for things, but we want to do things. And just so you know, 15% of every dollar that's been given this past week through online, through the app, through whatever, everything that came in today, 15% of that, anything that comes in by the end of the day today, we're sending that directly to help out with Ukraine. And so just so you know, so what we did is we partnered with Samaritan's Purses, Operation Christmas Child people. You know about that, your Christmas boxes. We partnered with them, and the funds that we're going to send is going to go directly to help a field hospital that's going to be set up in Ukraine for people who are injured. And so I just want to say to you guys, thanks for being generous, because you guys are amazing and you're helping out with us. All right, so let's get back into our topic for today. Today we're wrapping up a series called Better Together. And you all came back after last weekend, so I'm just like thrilled, all right? But have you guys enjoyed this series? This has been helpful to anybody? Has this helped you guys? That's my hope, is that it helped you, has helped you out. And if you're here and you're like, is this one of them relationship series? Because I'm single. I'm like, I'm like in the dictionary, there's my mugshot, like single, okay? Like whatever. Listen, I want you to know that this series doesn't matter if you're single, dating, divorced, married. This series is for everybody in every type of relationship, okay, except for last weekend, okay? But this series is for everybody in every type of relationship. Now, in saying that, if you are married, where are the married people at? If you're married, raise your hand. All right. Some of you you're like, oh, I'm not sure. That's a problem. No, but if you are married, at the end of today's message, I thought, how cool would it be to end the Better Together series by doing a church vow renewal for all the married couples? So today, in the most romantic place on earth, the basement, at the end of this message, we are going to do a vow renewal. And I just want to say to you husbands, you all need to give me so many gift cards for all the brownie points I've gotten for you in this series. Like all day long, just load up my mailbox, all right? So anyway, I wanted to end this Better Together series by starting out by telling you guys a little bit about Joel and Stacy's relationship. And I want to take you down Joel and Stacy's memory lane. I think we got a graphic for that. There we go. Look at that. Getting all the feels right now. All right, so Joel and Stacy's memory lane started back in October 2002 when Stacy asked me out. Woo! I believe in miracles since you came along, you sexy thing. Anyway, but Stacy asked me out, that's true, and I want to show you guys our first picture we ever took together. This was like a month after we started dating. This is in the most romantic place you've ever been, the Millsboro bowling alley. Because we are rednecks. And fun fact, in the last 19 years Stacy and I have been together, I have outbowled Stacy exactly 0 times. She is good at bowling, all right? So we started dating in October, and then a few months went by, and then we had Valentine's Day. Now, talk about pressure. Come on, man. You know about Valentine's Day pressure? You know about Valentine's Day pressure? Listen, no, man. Okay, one person knows about. Look, there's Valentine's Day pressure. There's a reason that women live longer than men. It's because we are stressed out about Valentine's Day. So for Valentine's Day, our first Valentine's Day, I was like, oh, baby, I got a great idea. You come over. I'm going to cook for you. And so I told Stacy to get fancy. And so Stacy comes over in her prom dress. Talk about pressure. But I was like, all right, I can deal with the prom dress because I went fancy. I made Stacy the most romantic meal possible. Spaghetti with some great value toast, baby. And this is in my parents' bonus room. And fun fact, guess who took this picture? My mother, okay? Now, after this picture, Stacy and I dated for 4 years before we got married. 4 years. And the whole time we were dating, everybody's like, when are you going to get married? When are you get married? When are you get married? I'm like, when are you going to mind your own business? You know that question? And Stacy, this is true. Anytime we would go out on a date to somewhere fancier than the Taco Bell, at the end of the night, Stacy would say, oh, I thought we were going to get engaged tonight. I'm like, what, in the bowling alley? Like, I don't got a ring. I'll buy you a bowling ball. Like, whatever. I'm serious. At least 20 times at the end of the night when we were dating, Stacy's like, well, I thought we were going to get engaged tonight. That's some pressure. You all feel the pressure? And so we did get engaged 4.5 years later on Valentine's Day 2007. And the moment that Stacy and I got engaged, everybody's like, well, when's the wedding? When's the wedding? When are you getting married? When's the wedding? When's the wedding? I'm like, could you all give us a second? We got to update our MySpace account, okay? So everybody's like, when do you get married? So we got, when are you going to get married? So we got married on December 15th, 2007. I got a picture of our wedding right here, and I've got this goofy smile because I'm like, this is the greatest hot girl heist of all time. If this is not proof that God loves me, I don't know what is. And so, but before we even got to our first dance, at the wedding reception, everybody's like, well, when are you going to have a kid? 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 I'm like, what is wrong with you people? And so we had our first kid 4 months later. We got a picture of him. This is our first kid. This is little Eli, who, fun fact about Eli, he turns 14 next month. He is officially a senior citizen. But then we did have our first kid. We have a picture of Nora when she was born. Put her in that Ravens jersey. You see that? But listen, as soon as we had Nora, I don't think we left the hospital. People were like, when are you going to have another kid? When are you going to have another kid? When are you going to have another kid? I'm like, what? Her head is still a cone. Can we get out of cone head stage? Okay, but there's all this pressure. When are you going to have another kid? And so we had our next kid, which is our wild child, Nixon James. And I took this picture and I put him in this little water bucket thing for cows. Because we're rednecks, remember? So anyway, this is Nixon. As soon as Nixon was born, what did everybody say? When are you going to have another kid? When are you going to have another kid? Okay, and the answer to that, if you want to ask me that, is never. I had a painful procedure to make sure the answer is never. Somebody say TMI. Somebody just say TMI. You should have been here last weekend. Anyway, but I feel like every stage in your relationship there has been pressure. And I tell you that whole story because relationships are full of pressure, aren't they? And not just like romantic relationships. There's all kinds of pressure in all kinds of relationships. Okay, there's friendship pressure. Like, when are we going to hang out? When are we going to hang out? Why didn't you text me back? I saw you got my text because it said read, and then I saw the text bubbles. You gave me the text bubbles. But then the text bubbles disappeared. When are you going to text me? When are you going to text me, right? Like there's friendship pressure. There's boss pressure. When you see the text bubbles from the boss, you're like, why you got to be texting me, boss? Why can't you text Frank? Okay, send it like, I want these bubbles to disappear. I said there's boss pressure. There's family pressure. Come on, somebody. Family pressure. Like, why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like your sister? You know, the one who doesn't live in my basement and eat my, Girl Scout cookies still. Go. There's family pressure. There's marriage pressure. Come on, men. You ever not gotten your underoos into the dirty clothes bin? Come on. Yeah. Elbow them right now. The dirty underoos are sitting on the ground and like, listen, wives don't like that. Better pick those underoos up. All right. You'll do laundry for the rest of your life. They're dirty. They're nasty. They stink. They're streaky. Pick them up. That's not a personal example, y'all. I'm just like... Hey, speaking of streaky underpants, there is kid pressure, baby pressure. I saw this on the internet this week. We'll put this up there. Booty call. A shout from the bathroom letting you know it's time to go wipe somebody's butts. Come on, that's the only kind of booty call you're getting when you got those little kids. Anyway, so who would have raised their hand and agree there's some pressure in relationships? There's some pressure in relationships. Relationships are full of pressure. And pressure in relationships lead to stress in relationships. And stress in relationships leads to us not being better together in relationships. And so today, I just want to suggest that if you show patience and kindness in your relationship, you'll be better together in your relationship, even if there's pressure. Patience and kindness can help pressure-proof our relationships. And to talk to you about that today, I want to take you to the love chapter in the Bible. The love chapter. And if I've had a Mountain Dew for every time I've been to a wedding, I've heard the love chapter read, I go to more weddings. Okay. I know we already put this up there, but who knew that the love chapter in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 13? Who knew that? Oh, yeah. If you didn't know it, you're going to know it by the end of this, okay? So this is known as the love chapter in the Bible. I don't want to rain on anybody's romantic, parade, but this wasn't written by Hallmark for your wedding. This isn't even written about a romantic kind of love. Here's what's going on. Paul wrote this to the Corinthian people, and he's telling them, hey, guys, the best spiritual gift you can have to give to anybody is just being loving to everybody. And the reason he's writing that to the Corinthian people is because the Corinthian people were fighting about who had the best spiritual gift. So like one guy's like, I have the best spiritual gift because I'm a usher. I ush. I pass the bucket. I'm the best at it. I got the best spiritual gift. And somebody else would argue with him like, oh, you're the best because you're an usher. I'm the one putting the money in the ush bucket. I cash in my Bitcoin so I can put all the money in the ush bucket. I have the best spiritual gift. They're arguing about who is the best spiritual gift. And Paul comes along. He's like, listen, y'all got it all wrong. The best spiritual gift isn't ushering or putting money into the ush bucket. The best spiritual gift is just to love people. And so then he describes what this love is. So that's the context. And this is what he says in verse 4. He says, listen, guys who are arguing, love is patient and kind. Everybody say patient and kind. He says, love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. All right, don't be fighting about if you ush or not. He says, it does not demand its own way. It's not irritable. And it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up. It never loses faith. It's always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. Come on, who has heard some of these love chapter words? Who's heard this before? Somewhere at a wedding, somewhere? Yeah, on your wall. There you go. It's the love chapter in the Bible. Now, I don't know about you, but I read this and I'm like, huh. Love is not irritable. And it keeps no records of being wrong. Well, I kind of messed that up this week. Love is patient and kind. Well, I wasn't know about patient and kind this week when my daughter Nora ate my entire pound of blueberries in one sitting. Could she have saved one blueberry? I mean, since I paid for them, I don't know. And I wasn't very loving and patient and kind then, right? Anybody read this and you're like, I could tighten up my definition of love. I could do a little bit better in this. Who would say you could do a little bit better with this definition of love? Okay, about a third of you guys. The rest of you, I can't see you. The halo is like so bright. I need sunglasses for the glare from your halo. Listen, I mean, maybe you think you're perfect or whatever, but I'm just here to tell you, we all could do better with this definition of love. And so I just want to really talk about the first 5 words of this, okay? Patient and kind, all right? So 2 points for you today. The first one we'll put up on the screen is this. You can pressure-proof any relationship by always being patient. By always being patient. Now, I want to set up patience this way. Who here is godly and you own a dog? Where are the dog people at in the room? A lot of dog people in our church. Okay, a lot of dog people in the room. If you own a dog, you have to be patient. Just like if you own a cat, you have to be crazy. It's just like the... Sorry, I'm just kidding. Rob Holler, wherever you're in the room. I'm sorry. I know you're a cat person. But I told you, my dog turns 14 next month. Okay, his Social Security just, started to come in. He's officially a senior citizen. And the older Eli gets, he's at the stage now where he's like, he's stubborn. He's incontinent. He's gassy. Some of you are like, my husband's at that age too, okay? No, I'm kidding. But so we have an updated picture of Eli. We'll throw this on the screen. This is Eli today. And by the way, this isn't a Bumblebee costume or a Steelers, representative costume. This is his doggy diaper. And if you're going to rock a doggy diaper, you might as well do it with fashion, right? So he's got his fashion doggy diaper. Now, a little thing about Eli, he sleeps all the time. And he snores all the time. I didn't know dogs snore. Do you guys know dogs snore? Do you want to see a video of my dog snoring? Would that make you happy? All right, let me show you this video. This is not doctored up. This is just Eli. This is a normal day with Eli. Just roll this and make sure the volume's up on this. Listen, that's what I woke up to yesterday morning, that noise. And it comes out of both ends of his, all right? So just... Eli sleeps, he sleeps all the time. But there's one place where he still has energy. Even though he's almost 14, there's one place, and that's when I let him out to go to the bathroom. So here's what happened. On Thursday, I'm working on this message, and it was around lunchtime, so I was like, all right, let me take Eli out. Now, Eli's laying in his bed in the house, and he's like snoring and tooting and doing, he's just out. And so I'm like, Eli, come on, let's go out to go to the bathroom. And Eli, senior citizen Eli, like he gets up, he slowly stretches. And then he senior citizen walks to the door. There's no rush, okay? But the moment that dog steps off the steps, he's like a spring chicken. He's in sprinkle mode, all right? He's hitting the stairs. He's hitting the hydrangea plants. He's doing a drive-by shooting on Stacy's garden, boom, 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 boom. He does all his favorite spots on the wood line. He's hitting everything on Thursday. And so I thought he's done. I'm like, Eli, get in here. And whenever I interrupt Eli when he's in sprinkle mode, he just stops, and he's very angry about it. He just stares at me for 3 minutes. I'm like, Eli, come on. I'm like, he's just staring. Then finally, he's like, okay. And so I'll let him go. He hit all his favorite spots in the yard again. And I'm like, Eli, my clothes are going out of style, man. Come on, get in here. And he looks at me again if you interrupt me one more time, I will tap into the reserve tank, all right? So then he went to the front yard, ran by the house, goes to the front yard, hits his favorite spots in the front yard. Then he goes on to the road. He's walking on the road. I'm like, Eli, get off the road, because I'm now at the front door. Yeah, I'm not going out of my house. I'm like, get off the road. And when I interrupt him on the road, he just looks at me, on the road. So finally, he starts coming back to the house. I'm like, praise the Lord, okay? But then it must have hit him that he only went into sprinkler mode. And he's like, oh, I got to take care of the real business now. And so he finds a spot for that. I'm like, Lord, have mercy with this dog. And the older Eli gets, the more patience I need with that dog. Come on, dog owners. You understand how this works? And I tell you that because the older any relationship gets, the more patience that relationship needs. I mean, like for instance, when you have a baby, babies require patience, but they're cute. So nobody cares. But eventually that baby becomes a teenager. And now they smell differently than they were as a baby, all right? And you need patience to raise a teenager because they know more than you know. And the reason they know more than you know is because of TikTok. And then finally, that teenager becomes an adult. They have their own kids. So you're like, okay, I'm going to give them advice on how to raise a kid, since I raised you. But they don't want your advice because they already know how to do it because of TikTok. And the older a relationship gets, the more patience that relationship needs. Okay, the older your kids get, the more patience you're going to need in that relationship. Now let's flip this. Kids, the older your parents get, the more patience you're going to need with your crazy old parents. The older a friendship gets, the more patience you're going to need in that relationship. The older a marriage gets, come on somebody, the more patience you're going to need in that marriage. Okay, like when you're a newlywed, guys, husbands, let's get in trouble together, okay? When you're a newlywed and your wife is getting herself ready, you can be like, oh, honey, you look so beautiful. I know you're getting yourself ready, but we're running a little bit behind. Could you hurry up? At first, she's like, oh, yeah, anything I do for you, boo? 20 years into the marriage, if you're like, hey, honey, can you hurry up? I will cut you. Get in the van and shut your mouth. I will cut you, okay? And here's what's taken me 39 years to sort of figure out. Patience can hit the pause button on drama in your relationship. Patience can hit the pause button on drama in your relationship. And so before you're like, hey, honey, would you hurry up? Or before you're like, hey, daughter, could you not eat all my blueberries? Or before you're like, let me just tell you what I don't like about you. Just sit down. I'll tell you all the things. Before you do all those things, hit the pause button, breathe, maybe get yourself a Mountain Dew, and dial up the patience so you don't dial up the drama. So hit the pause button and dial up the patience before you dial up the drama. And so here's my tip for you. Everybody should be thinking about this, writing this down, something, okay? When you're feeling impatient, hit pause, breathe, and remember, God has been so patient with me. Come on, how many of you would say that God has been patient with you? Would anybody say that God's been patient with you? Okay, about half. That's a little better than the other one. All right, not everybody raise their hand. We're glad you're here, Jesus, if you didn't raise your hand. But God has been patient with all of us. Listen, I'll promise. And I need to remember that because I'm not the most patient person in the world. Let me give you an example. 2 Sundays ago after church, I went over to the new Aldi. Anybody who goes to Aldi? Is that not the greatest place on earth if you are a cheap person? It's the greatest, man. And so I went into Aldi last week, and it was 2 weekends ago, and I love Aldi. I'm going to name my next dog Aldi. I'm all for Aldi. And I go in there, and it's packed after church, all right, just packed. And I'm in there to get my salad for the week or whatever. So I'm like, going through the aisle, getting everything in there. And there's only 2 registers open. And so I did what I always do. I analyzed both lines. And I chose to pick the left line. And to make sure I made a good choice, I put a ghost runner in the right line. That's when you put your little secret shopper over in that line, and you just make sure you chose the right line. And so the whole time I'm in that line, I'm like looking over there, I'm like ghost runner, and I'm just here to tell you that the Lord blessed me because I picked the right line. Woohoo! And so I'm walking out of there, and I'm looking at all the people who chose the wrong line. And I'm like, suckers, okay, you choose the wrong line. I am not a very patient person. And you can get away with not being patient in the Audi. But you can't get away with not being patient in a relationship. And so what do? When you're feeling impatient, you hit pause, you breathe, you go shop at Aldi, buy yourself some cheap lettuce, and you just remember, God has been so patient with me. And patience has a cousin, and patience' cousin is empathy. Empathy. All right, now empathy is the secret sauce to patience. Empathy, nothing softens your heart like putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Have you noticed this before? I'll give you an example. So when I was around 20 years old, I didn't have kids, but I did have a job at the Georgia House restaurant in Millsboro. Who remembers the extinct now Georgia House? Who remembers that? Come on, give me some of that buffalo, or that was a Kentucky chicken salad. Woo! Anyway, I was a busboy when I started there, and I remember every Friday night, without fail, this same couple would come into the Georgia House restaurant, and they would sit at the same booth, and they had 2 kids, and their kids were crazy demon-possessed kids. I'm telling you, the whole time their kids are there, their kids were screaming, they're throwing rolls, their kids are like limp noodling out of the seat, flopping on the floor like a fish, like just losing it. I remember they used to bring Cheerios for their kids, and their kids would take all the Cheerios. And I'm the busboy, I have to clean up the tables. They would take the Cheerios and go, Cheerio dust everywhere. And I remember, as a 20-year-old kid without kids, I remember looking at these parents, I'm like, you all need to get a grip. This is what's wrong with kids these days. Like, you need to get your kids under control. My kids aren't going to be laying on the floor of a restaurant, flopping around like a fish. I'm going to have control over my kids. Then I had kids. I will never forget, a few years ago, we took our kids after church, we went to the Applebee's, and I think it was like the first time we were brave enough to take our kids to a public place, a public restaurant, and so we go in there and we're like, maybe this will work. But listen, it was after church, my kids hadn't had a nap, and they were fully demon-possessed. So we sit down, and our kids, they're just going crazy. They're screaming, they're like limp, they're doing all the things, and at one point, Stacy was like, I got to take Nora to the bathroom. And I'm like, no, you don't leave me here with him. You can't leave me here with him. Like, I'm not ready for it. Applebee's is not ready for it. Stacy left me. She just straight up left me and took Nora to the bathroom right on cue. As soon as Stacy walked away, Nixon, limp noodle slides out of the seat. He's under the booth, and he starts flailing like a fish. He's like, hoo. And he's screaming, and I remember some punk 20-year-old kid looking at me, like giving me those judgy eyes. I'm like, turn around, you have no idea how hard this is. You wait till you have one of these, you little punk. And so now, true story, if I go into a restaurant and I see some family with a 2-year-old kid, I just look at them and I'm like, this is going to be a horrible experience for all of us, but there's no judgment from me, all right? Because nothing softens our heart like putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. Isn't that true? And that's what empathy is. It's the cousin of patience. And so the next time you think about someone in your life and you're like, oh, why don't they? Why can't they get their kids under control? Why do they do that? I can't believe I'm, related to that idiot. I can't believe I married that person. But before you do any of that, just pause and remember to when you were in a bad season in your life and how you were in that season. And always pause and remember, man, God has been so patient with me. I got to be patient with other people. And so one more time, I know that many people don't raise their hand. How many of you would say, God has been patient with me? Come on, God's been patient with me. And so God's been patient with us, and empathy in a relationship, patience in a relationship looks like this. It looks like us saying, hey, I know they may not be living up to what they said they were going to do in this relationship, but there's been times when I didn't do what I said I was going to do in a relationship. I may have, or they may be hurting me, but I've hurt somebody before too. Or, they may not be measuring up, but there's been times when I haven't measured up in a relationship too. And so empathy and compassion and passion or patience in a relationship make relationships better together. That's love. That's what Paul talked about. Now, the other thing he talked about was kindness. And so this is my last point, is that you can pressure-proof any relationship by always being kind. by always being kind. So I heard this guy tell the story this past week, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I was like, I'm going to steal that. That sounds good. And so the story goes like this. There was this lady, and she wanted to divorce her husband. I think, maybe, he left too many streaky underoos next to the dirty clothes bin, all right? And so she goes to a counselor, and she's like, counselor, I want to hurt my husband in the worst way possible. What do you suggest? Some of the ladies are leaning in like, oh, this is good stuff. No. The counselor said, okay, if you want to hurt your husband in the worst way possible, you just lay on the compliments thick to him. You get those butterflies flying again, and the moment he is like all in, the butterflies are flying, then you divorce his streaky underwear wearing butt. And she's like, oh, I got it. That's good. That's good. So she goes home, and she's laying on the compliments to him thick. She's like, oh, honey, you are looking good in your dad jeans today. You're so sexy when you watch Star Wars in your Star Wars shirt with your belly button hanging out. Oh, you shopped so good at that Aldi today. You are, the way you lead your company, oh my goodness. And like this guy's hearing all these compliments, and he's like, woo, woo. Like he's feeling the butterflies. And so things are great. So she goes back 2 months later to the same counselor, and she's like, okay, oh man, he loves me now. I did exactly what you said. He is all in. His butterflies are flying. And he said, what was that second? I forget. What's the second part you asked me to do? And he said, now you divorce his streaky underwear wearing butt. And she's like, divorce him? I fell in love with a man again. I want to stay with him. Everybody say, oh. See, I don't know if that story is true, but it seems nice. So let's believe it's true. I don't know. But I tell you that story because there's something powerful that happens when you stop treating somebody for who they are and you start treating somebody for who they can be. Something powerful that happens when you stop treating somebody for who they are and you start treating them for who they can be. Because if you notice that people tend to rise or fall to the level of the actions and the words given to them. Have you noticed this? And so if you treat your husband like he's the best, you'll probably see the best side of your husband. If you treat your wife like she is the woman of your dreams, she'll probably start becoming the woman of your dreams. If you like rah your kid, like, hey, you can do it, you can succeed, that might be the thing that they need to succeed. If you model good driving behavior to tourists, just kidding, that will never work. But listen, people tend to rise or fall to the level of the words and the actions given to them. And something powerful happens when you believe the best about somebody. I found this super interesting. Researchers have a hard time figuring out what keeps marriages together the longest. They can't sort of figure out what the secret sauce or the sweet spot of that is. But I saw this research article done by State University of New York. And they did this big thing to try to figure out what keeps marriages together the longest. And they researched all these couples, and they only found one consistent measurable answer. And the couples that stayed together the longest were the couples whose spouses saw the other person as, saw their actions and what they did as in the best light possible. In other words, they believed the best things about their spouse's actions and what their spouse did. And that was what they found out, because there's something powerful about believing the best about somebody else in any type of relationship. Now, pastor confession. I'm terrible at this. I get a big F in this. Any fellow strugglers with believing the best about somebody? Any fellow strugglers? Y'all ain't playing along today. You all should be preaching. You all got it. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, but man, I struggle with believing the best about somebody. So let me give you a personal example. And this is from way back in me and Stacy's relationship. I mean, this is so last week, okay? But in Stacy and I's marriage, one of us is super organized, type A, loves spreadsheets, is OCD, should probably go see a therapist. And the other one of us is named Stacy, okay? And Stacy looks 10 times more put together on the outside than me. But boy, you should see inside her minivan, okay? And I'm trying to believe the best about Stacy's minivan, maybe she's just preparing for a zombie apocalypse. She's putting everything in there to save our lives. I don't know, but Stacy, when she does decide to organize things, whenever that is, okay? Stacy is the best organizer ever. Like seriously, hands down the best organizer ever. So last weekend, Stacy decided she wanted to organize her desk space at home. And let me describe Stacy's desk space, and this is going to get me in trouble. But everybody imagine a museum. You gotta just think about a museum. Just think about a museum. Okay, her desk space looks like a tornado hit a museum. Like a scene from the movie Twister, okay? Like you could throw a dead body on her desk and nobody would even know the dead body's there. Like it's just, okay? So Stacy last weekend was like, I'm going to clean up my desk area. Spent the whole day cleaning up her desk area. And there's one thing or two things that we shared in her desk space, okay? We shared these envelopes that we pay our bills with, and we shared these thank you notes that we sent out. That was in her desk. So midway through Stacy cleaning up her desk, she comes and she interrupts me because I'm watching YouTube. I'm doing important things. And Stacy has the envelopes and the thank you notes, and she's like, honey, I need you to find a place for your envelopes and your thank you notes. I'm like, hit pause on your YouTube. You mean you want me to get rid of our envelopes that we pay our bills with? Like, is that what? Can we not throw that into Twister Town over there? And she's like, no. Can you please just do something with this? I'm like, no. I cannot do something with this. And she's like, honey, I just need one place to be my space. I just need one space in my life to be mine. I'm like, I do not agree with the relocating of the envelopes. I am not in favor of this relocation effort. And she's like, honey, I just need one place to be my own. I'm like, you know what the Bible says about that? The two will become one flesh, which means nobody gets their own space. And she's like, oh, if that's the case, I'll go put our envelopes on your desk because nobody gets their own space. I'm like, can we talk about this for a second? Let's just breathe. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But we fall over envelopes. Married people, can you relate to this? And so for the next 3 hours, I didn't talk. Pastor Joel didn't talk. I go into the Pastor Joel huff. That's just when I don't say any words and I just go, You know, I'm just huffing and puffing. And we got into it over envelopes. And listen, that wouldn't have happened if I had just believed, you know what, Stacey just needs a place to call her own. I would love to just help her out with that. Like if I had thought that, guys, isn't that the right way to think about it? I didn't do that. Said I huffed and I puffed, all right? And listen, if I had believed the best about what Stacey was doing, I could have helped us avoid that argument. And so in relationships, just believe in the best about somebody else. And listen, every relationship has its fights. Come on, if you've not been in a fight in your relationship, you have not been together for very long. Right. I love those couples that come to me and are like, we've never fought. We just kissed. We're in love. I'm like, come see me when you do. This is going to be bad, all right? Because you guys, this one's going to be building up. It's going to be like a nuclear bomb went off, like boom. But every relationship has its challenges. But when we believe the best about the other person, when there's patience and kindness, that kind of love never, ever fails. And that pressure proofs our relationship when there's kindness and there's patience. And we remember, man, God has been so patient with me.